I call the Fire District Board meeting of August 17th to order. Could you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
I pledge
allegiance
allegiance
To the flag
of
of
the
the United
to
States of
America,
and to the
and to
republic
the republic
for which it stands,
and
one nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
all.
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Okay, moving on. Chris, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Aldrich,
Here.
Beckman,
here.
Fox,
Here.
Verplank,
Here.
Phelps,
Here.
Pullen,
Here.
and Miller.
I think, Aaron.
I heard him say yes, I can see him, so.
Oh, he's not muted.
Oh, there you go.
No, his sound's not coming through.
Aaron, are you there?
He's lip syncing.
Sign language.
Well, I can do that.
He's checking his mic.
Says it's working. It's
There
not.
you are.
There you go, now you are.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Please mute your cell phones. Try not to text during the meeting. Could I have approval of the agenda, please? Is there any additions or deletions?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Jane, may I?
Yes.
Would like to request just to be able to add a couple of chief's comments on that evolved after we printed this or created this agenda. So I just have two things on the chief's comments and add another grant onto item C, 9C. So those two changes.
Another grant?
Yes, another grant award.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I will adjust the motion to read to present the agenda as presented with the corrections. Approve the agenda as presented with the corrections.
Got it.
Okay.
Roll call.
Sure, why not?
Pullen,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
and Aldrich.
Yes.
Okay, could we have approval, or could we have approval of the minutes of the July 20th meeting, please?
I'll approve the minutes of July 20th, 2020.
Okay, we have a motion by Pullen and a second by Fox. Is there any discussion? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
and Miller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to public comment on agenda items only. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Either raise your hand or just, Chris, let me know if there's anybody out there with comments.
Yeah, it looks like everyone is fire board members, Griffin, Eric, Kyle, or David Blatt from the fire department. So
That's not much of a
side of our personnel or the board and
Okay.
Griffin.
Can we have requests for payments, please? Could we have a request to pay the accounts payables?
I'll make a motion to pay the accounts payable of $84,299.88.
I'll support.
Okay, I have a motion by Phelps and support by Beckman. Is there any discussion?
Well, I thought I had something on here when I looked at it the other day, but I don't see it now, so. There was something with a body shop or Extreme Auto.
Yeah, that could have been expenses. Scott, if I may, that would be for a grant that we received, a grant project for 50% funding that allowed for diagonal reflective striping on the back end of 3 trucks, of 3 apparatuses. So that might be what you saw.
That could be. That could very well be.
And funded by our insurance company, 50%.
Okay, good.
Oh, that's good.
Okay,
Yes.
do you want to talk about some of these charges that are for the fire dock? I think I saw some on here.
Sure. Which ones, Jane? Anything in particular?
Well, there's a big one for DK Construction, and there's also one for insurance.
Okay, the DK Construction would be for the deposit. To secure the schedule, we had to put down 50% of the price of the project. So that was $8,764. Then the insurance, I'm looking for the insurance. Anyway, the insurance, we had to get an additional premium, a policy for liability because the water main, our general liability insurance was not acceptable to some. So we scrambled to get an insurance policy, and my original quotes were $5,000 to $8,000. We finally, through an insurance consultant that I'm aware of, he finally got one for $1,100. That insurance policy expired Saturday. So that's what the insurance policy was for.
And then the 1,600 to MMRMA is our normal insurance policy, the 16,000.
A payment,
Okay,
right.
all right, thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Hello, okay, would you call the roll, please, Chris?
Okay, yep. So I had a motion by Phelps and a second by Beckman to pay invoices in the amount of $84,299.88. Phelps,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
and Miller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Pete, are you here for the financial report?
I'm here. So in the beginning with our revenues, basically the only money collected currently are for inspection and plan review, some cost recovery, and the one grant we received. Expenses are just our typical expenses for this time of the year. I don't know if anybody has any particular line item questions or issues. The general insurance is at 50%, but we just paid the first 6 months, and then the first of the year we'll have to pay the other half.
So that MM thing is, we pay twice a year?
Yeah, it's quarterly. It depends what the amount is due and if there's any dividend payback. So I think the
Oh.
next bill is it's quarterly, just every 6 months. So that's about half of it. That gets us to the first of the year.
Okay,
Our liability insurance, insurance on the equipment, insurance on the building.
Basically, everything workers' compensation.
Okay. Any questions, any discussion? Okay, moving on. Let's go to fire chief comments. All yours. Brett.
Okay. Thank you, Jane. I'll just highlight significant features on the report done by Eric. Basically, what the board would probably like to know is we're down about 18% on calls. Today
good.
we're at 504. Yeah, COVID has definitely had an impact on calls. Even though we typically are ramped up to 100 calls in July, you can see we're down to 76 calls. So significant decrease in calls, but what I'd like to go is towards the end and advise you of marine responses. We've had a flurry of activity on the water. I think there's been 5 boat in distresses. We had people capsized in kayaks. We had a boat abandoned. No one would tow him in. There was a storm coming in. Boat US wouldn't tow them in. Sheriff was not available. Coast Guard would not come. So we had to go retrieve him. It's just been a lot of boating incidents. And when you can consider COVID and the impact, there are a lot of people on the water. And we can see our activity is really ramped up in a very short time frame. So I just wanted to point that out to you. We also, on boat recovery, marine responses, we've had about $15,000 in property salvage. So that's really important, like property conservation for fires. We've saved $15,000 in just 2 boats. Interesting enough, one of the calls was a call to the station about a jet ski that was floating down the river that became untied. And the crew recovered that jet ski, tied it up to our fireboat dock, our new fireboat dock. And the Elgin County Sheriff tracked down the owner. And to much our surprise, the jet ski belonged to our neighbor, Retro Boats.
Oh,
So,
Cost recovery.
right. So
yes,
we-
yes.
we were
yes.
grateful that we were called. It was actually DK Construction phoned the department, said, hey, there's this jet ski. It's a hazard. Abandoned, floating down the river. Crews recovered it. And once Elgin County notified Retro Boats, Mr. Shar came over and picked it up. And we were really happy about that. So it all turned out really good.
I'm assuming we've got nice, clear, and potentially usable on the line record of that event, correct?
Yes, sir. It's in the narrative, right? So the other thing I wanted to point out, and you're really going to like this, I believe you will really like this, and I'm going to read a report from Chris Mantles. I could not have written it any better myself, and it's about a save for 4 people, carbon monoxide.
Oh,
People take it for granted. So this is from Chris Mantles, addressed to officers and Eric Kirchherk. Thought it was important to inform you of another alarm save. Lieutenant Bernhardy and Captain Betts installed a smoke and CO alarm free of charge at Lakeshore Drive dwelling back June 26th of 2020. Last night, the carbon monoxide alarms went off, and the owners called the station to complain that they were faulty after having removed them. They were fairly adamant about not having a response, as they had just put their grandkids to bed and were concerned with COVID. Lieutenant Meyer, Kyle Meyer, persisted, and the duty crew responded to investigate. The Sunset meter, those are the gas meters that we use, we're reading about 45 parts per million, some of it up, some of it down, depending upon the level, upon entry to the dwelling, with 2 grandkids sleeping, 2 adults awake. It was determined that the stove was faulty. Gas was shut off and was tagged out of service. The home was ventilated, and the owners refused medical treatment. Clearly, the alarms did exactly what they were supposed to do and were not faulty. Had it not been for our community risk reduction efforts, those of Lieutenant Meyer and the Tuesday crew last night, it is likely we would have received a totally different call to that home this morning. It was interesting because one of the occupants complained she had a headache all day. So one of those things was complete oversight. The alarms went off. Let's remove them. They've got to be faulty. The outcome probably would have been much different the next morning. So great job, Kyle. Great job, Chris Bernhardy and Captain Betts for installing alarms.
Yes, they did their job, didn't they? That's
Amen.
great.
Sure did. Next up, State of Michigan reports that we have experienced 83 fatal fires year to date, 10 from the last meeting. Next up, I'm really proud to say we have received another grant award in the form of $3,022 to reimburse us for fire inspector classes for several of the personnel. And the classes were held last December 2012, and the grant team was successful in this, and I believe this was written by Chris Mandels. So way to go, Chris. The next item is another grant award. We had several opportunities to write to FEMA for reimbursement for PPE, personal protection equipment, and for COVID related equipment. So we were awarded between $4,700 and $4,800. We're not sure the exact amount, but at least $4,700 to reimburse us for those supplies. Pretty significant. That grant, I believe, was written by Chris Bernhardi.
Thank you, Chris. That was good.
Thank you. Next up, just want to ensure the board that our medical license has been renewed through next September of 2021. Something that happened over the weekend, our fireboat, our primary fireboat 2191, will be the first response vessel to anything large because the police boat for Algon County has blown an engine and it is out of service. So they put us on notice that we would be the first out the door for anything with a large vessel. They blew an engine from all the marine growth in the water. Not a good thing. The last item I wanted to share with you, with the board, I wanted you to know, most unfortunate, we have had 2 personnel that have lost their mothers. Caleb Demond lost his mother a few weeks ago, and Kyle Meyer recently lost his mother. So please keep Caleb and Kyle in your prayers and thoughts. Jane, that concludes my comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to unfinished business. We have a cost recovery standard operating guideline. Craig?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I scrolled too far.
That's okay. So under the wise advice of the board, the team reworked this, and Dan Fox helped us as well. He really cleaned it up. We feel this is a great form that we wanted to present to the board and share with you. We actually used the form as a pilot with a recent cost recovery where I had to tow a boat in the middle of the night. And we like it. It can be a fluid document, but we took the advice of the board, had some automatic cost recovery implementation features, and then some things that we talk about. So here's the form. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I'd only suggest, Chief, that each of the whatever representatives deliver this in an open meeting to the respective boards, councils, whatever, to make them aware of this, partly so they don't get surprised by a constituent screaming at them that they've been billed and not know what the deal is. This will let the jurisdictions know that there's a process that's being followed for these things. It's not arbitrary, and as I say, just acquaint them with what this is.
So Dan, would you like us to
No,
send a copy of this to the board member of the jurisdiction that it's within?
Well, we've already got it. I mean, it's in the
Yep.
packet. So
Okay.
I just, I guess there's 2 representatives for each one. One of the 2 should submit that, however, to the jurisdiction.
why don't we just put it on our website, and if anyone has a question about it, they can take the time to go to the website and figure out how we come up with cost recovery. And this is how we do it.
No, I think that's a great idea. I just think that if we
Yeah, I
don't,
do too.
I think we owe our jurisdictions a direct, here's the deal.
I still think that cost recovery should be arbitrary and at the judgment of the chief. And I know that sounds, it can get himself in a little bit of a trouble, but these are just guidelines he should follow. And I think there was nothing wrong with what he did in the past. I just think the township and the previous administration thought he was overstepping or overreaching, and I disagreed with him, and obviously so did our township because they're not here anymore. And I mean, that's just my opinion. It's a guideline, and it's still up to the chief to make that determination. I agree with what you have here.
Well, he can still maybe make that determination, but I think this evaluation worksheet is excellent. That would be a guide. That's my opinion of it.
In my opinion, cost recovery is not black and white.
No.
That's my opinion.
I agree. That's why I think this worksheet
Except
would
that
help.
except that in the worksheet, there are several items there that are pretty black and white. So you were cooking meth.
Yeah,
Set your house on fire. That's an illegal activity. You're going to get
yes.
and as are the other, whatever, 7 questions. Those are, and they're designed, they're designed to give the district and the department and the chief basically the guidance and backing of this board on making these determinations. I don't think you can have it. I don't think would be wise to have it be entirely the judgment of one human being, whether or not to invoke cost recovery. That just puts that individual in the crosshairs.
Crossfires, yeah. Yeah, and this is a great worksheet. The evaluation, I think, is wonderful. It's a good guideline for our chief.
One thing maybe we could do if the board is receptive is we can just have a line item on the agenda for cost recovery and one filed in township, and if the township board representative wants to know about that to share with his jurisdiction, he or she we could leave it to the discretion of the board member, but we could actually add it on the agenda. I got to be careful about what I put in the board packet. Incident number is all I could put in there. More, I guess where I'm going with that is the information is available if he or she so desire to take that to the jurisdiction and say, hey, just want to let you know the fire department had to bill somebody in township for towing their boat in because of. Is there any interest in that?
Just to be clear, I was not advocating that each individual incident.
Okay, all right, sorry.
I was talking simply about the worksheet and that process.
Okay, yep. I can send that to each municipality. I'm sorry, Dan, I misunderstood.
I'm sorry.
So I think we have to be really, really clear about the fact when we start towing boats that we are not a boat towing service, not the go-to guy when you get stuck in the harbor or wherever. And if we tow boats, you will pay for it. I think that goes without saying. We just cannot get into the boat towing service. It's very difficult and time consuming to tow a boat.
Where is that situation covered on this worksheet?
Okay, I just think we need to make that eminently clear.
No, Aaron, may I, Jane? Can I respond to Aaron?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point, Aaron. When I became chief, the board made it real clear we're not a tow service. And I took it for granted not to have that on the sheet. And maybe I was wrong with that because we have so few of those that ever occur. But I can certainly add that on here as far as cost recovery. It'd be real easy to add that on.
All you
When
need,
I
all you
yeah,
need to
go
do is
on.
add it to one of the first, I mean,
Right.
make a next point there that says, was a
Right.
boat towed? Boom, automatic cost recovery.
I mean, if the boat's on the rocks and getting pounded on the rocks, towing it off as part of the rescue, that's different. This was a boat that broke down, not to the person's negligence. It just failed, and he was stranded out there, and no one would rescue this guy. And we had a pretty significant storm coming in. When I approached him, we had a little dinghy that helped go recruit him, get him out, and I had one of the fireboats that I took out to get him. I notified him, "I'm sorry, sir, we're not a tow service, just so you know the position that you're in." So we actually brought him back and docked him all safely and everything. And subsequently, he was billed. So
There should be, yeah.
Aaron's point is well merited, and I will add that on there.
That begs the question of the jet ski towing.
It's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
And the reason I did not is because he was a resident, and I was showing a neighbor a courtesy, because we've already talked about that.
Yes.
Is the neighbor conscious of the fact that that was a courtesy to which he was not?
I don't know. He's not reached out to me. I don't know.
Maybe it'll be in your Christmas card when you get it from.
Chief, how much approximately would that man you did tow in, do you know what the cost was for that?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I do. It was $853.
Wow, okay.
We also, if I may, we had a cost recovery where the boat operator was impaired. I discussed it briefly last week. They hit a seawall. The boat had a hole in it, was sinking. The sheriff went after the boat. We went after the people. We treated them. We billed them $1,350, and we already received our first payment. You also recouped just $600 for the fireboat alone. So our labor was covered, our boat operations was covered, and happy ending so far.
That's another interesting piece of news, I think, to give back to the jurisdictions. That in general, the cost recovery, but in particular, as it relates to the marine units, that the district pursues cost recovery at numbers that surprise me, quite honestly, $850 for a tow or whatever. So, and I say that so that the jurisdictions understand that the boats sitting down there are not, some sort of dead expense that they're bearing. I mean, I didn't know that, but I think it's terrific.
Do we have a chart of the cost, and where do you come up with these costs? Is it in that manual?
We have a fee, Taru, a fee that we developed, and that fee shows when we do cost recovery, like on the highway, wherever we are, those fees are established and approved each year.
Okay.
And the boat fee for the bigger boat is one fee. For the next size boat, it's a lower fee.
Okay.
A fee for a truck, a fee for a chief officer, a fee for me. So those are specific. We just don't pull them out of a hat.
Okay.
They're-
No, I kind of figured they were. I just didn't know where they were exactly.
Yeah. They're in the fee schedule.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
If the Coast Guard were called, do they do cost recovery too? Just curious.
Very seldom, Stacy, does the Coast Guard do that. I've heard them do a cost recovery on a helicopter rescue, but no, very seldom do they implement that in all the years I've been boating. And you can see the fee schedule on the screen that Chris put up for us. Thank you, Chris.
The fire
No.
board approved this one back in February, this new version of it, so.
And you can see item
I'm not
number
sure
20,
that-
26, no, item number 25, that's 2191, our large boat, and it's $300 per hour. And the one call was out an hour, almost 2 hours, so we charged them $600.
Chris, I'm not seeing that.
Over on the left-hand side of your screen.
No.
I
don't-
can email it to you, True. I'll email it to you
Okay.
after the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet.
I guess one thing that I kind of wonder about is we say we don't do boat tow-ins, and the next thing we know, we're going out and pulling people in. We either do or we don't.
Well, if we were the last resort, I get it was, we might have been the last resort because that was the retro boat one. But say we're the last resort, we don't want someone to die or something if we're the only ones that can help them.
Well, it's a good point, Eric. And here's what I had to balance out. I had to look at the fact that with the boat that broke down in the channel, I had a hazard at 2 o'clock in the morning. I also had a horrific, severe storm coming in where Boat Tow US would not come from Holland because of the storm. We got in right when it started raining. So I could have gone out and rescued that person and left the boat. The reason I didn't is because it was in the channel and he had no power. I had no lighting. So I elected to pull that boat in and charge for that. I did not have to tow it in, I guess, in a way, but I can't leave them out there once I get the call. But Eric, you're correct in that I did tow it in. Yeah, go on.
Greg, you know I'm a boater. You know I have a soft spot for boaters.
Yep.
Maybe with the new boat coming, we will be a little bit more agile and be able to do things like that. And maybe you should consider, but not as a business, but as a service. You know, there are times that there are people out there that most of the time, and Scott knows, he's a boater, when someone's engine's not working, usually you wave down a fellow boater and you're a boater, you get a buddy to tow you in.
Yep.
Most of the time.
Right.
But with like this one, it's an emergency and I get it. But, you know, maybe the smaller boat will be a little more agile and it's something that we'll be able to do a little easier.
It definitely, sorry. I had a lot of trouble with the jet ski boat trying to move him. We sucked up a lot of weed. He drifted into an area that was just all full of weed. We had quite a time getting him in. Chris Bernhardy helped me, Michael England helped me, and we managed to get him in.
My point in all of this is that we don't want to become we'll just call the fire department, they'll tow us in and it'll be free. I think we have to be very careful, you know, about the incident and not becoming a tow service along with everything else we do. So that was just my point in all of this, is that we're not a tow service. You don't call us first. You call us when all else fails or if lives are in jeopardy.
I agree with that. I agree with
think
that totally.
they need what you're saying, Jane, is they need to exhaust all sources before they come to us.
Yes.
And that's well said, understood.
I think people need to be in danger of some sort before we have to go too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that with the storm, yeah.
Right, exactly.
You had to help them.
Yep, they had to.
Yeah.
Not the excuse that, gee, the tow service line's really long and we're going to have to wait. So just call the fire department.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I agree.
I think we have to be careful about this whole, you know, taking over another responsibility that people normally have to pay for. So I just think we have to be careful. I'm not saying we'll never do it, but I think we have to be very careful about what we do.
Greg,
Yes, sir.
for my edification, whatever, the $650 cost recovery on that boat or whatever. If that guy had been able to call the tow service in Holland, would that have cost him less? I hope.
I don't know, Dan. I don't know what the fee would have been. My guess is it would have been more because the guy's coming from Holland and going back to Holland.
I would think so
Um,
too.
He would charge for the mileage traveled to get to him because there is no towboat located in Saugatuck.
That's
My
related.
guess is it would have been more.
It's related to Jane's point. If we're a low cost option, that's going to encourage, not discourage, calls to the fire district.
Maybe I'll call and get their rates. I
Oh,
know
that'd be good.
I upped my insurance because I've got a little bigger boat and I did not want to be subjected to anything. But I have a sailboat. They don't break down.
Well, if you don't have any wind.
Go on, I'm
$250 an
waiting.
hour.
I'm waiting.
So my question is, if you would call the towing service for your boat, because I'm definitely not a boater, does your insurance cover that?
Up to a limit. Some boats have insurance, some do not. It depends on your policy.
Depends
And-
on- You can join towboat and they will
Right.
share you.
And you also have some of it where it's a $500 limit. I don't think you can get a boat towed for $500 from Holland. I don't think
Oh.
that'll happen.
Uh-uh.
Average
But I'm
towboat,
gonna find out.
the average towboat US fee is $250 an hour from the time they leave their dock till the time they return. So that's almost $750.
Yeah, easy, yeah,
It's $1,000 bill going upriver.
Right.
yeah.
Okay, well, I think you've got the gist of this. So why don't we move on to B, adoption of the fire district personnel manual. I'm sure you've all read this over the,
Oh, yeah,
Jane,
I read all 500 pages.
yeah.
could I
Right.
ask one thing before we completely get off that cost recovery thing?
oh, yeah, sure.
It's not crazy, I don't think, to potentially use the tow services established pricing
Right.
as our base pricing on tows. So rather than, $300 or whatever we might charge, you would calculate it as though it were the private one, and then we'll take that money plus X percent.
Yeah,
That keeps us from being a low-cost tow option.
Yeah, I agree with that.
so Greg, if we tow a boat, is there a possibility that somebody's insurance will pay for that?
Yes,
Or-
there is a possibility. What we do is we encourage the victim to submit it to his insurance company and request reimbursement for the claim. And if not, they shoulder the responsibility. They shoulder the cost.
So you don't have to be a certified boat towing establishment in order to collect insurance.
No, by ordinance, we have the right to recover our costs.
Okay, all right.
And again, to be clear, it'd be a separate item on the schedule of fees related to boat towing.
Yeah,
And the
Yes.
cost would be
Yes,
commercial price plus X percent. So automatically, it keeps people from going, okay, well, I'm not gonna go
right,
to
we've
the
established that,
fire
yeah.
department because it's gonna cost too much.
okay. All right, I think we
Will do.
All right, moving on to adoption of the fire district personnel manual.
When do we take the test on that, by the way?
I'm ready.
So the second reading is the last reading, correct? Or is it go to 3 readings?
We had anticipated presenting it twice. It is strictly the discretion of the fire board what they would like to do. We realize you've got a lot of important things to do. than read an employee handbook for the fire department.
Has the attorney gone over the book?
Yes, the attorney and a labor attorney were involved in the creation of the handbook and the revision. That's correct. I did not have them review the final because I had already used over $6,000 in money on this. If I am directed to, what the board can consider is final attorney review and spend the money to have the attorney do the final.
Okay.
Did you make the adjustments that the attorneys recommended?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Some of the adjustments the attorneys, shall we say, were not savvy to. The attorneys they just didn't know what to do with some of it.
Hmm.
So also we had to make adjustments because we have some 24-hour shift people and the 40-hour labor law is not applicable to them. So that was added in there and vetted by the attorney, but originally they did not catch that. So maybe what the board would like to do is, why don't we send it to the attorney for final review and bring it back next month?
Well, whatever you're comfortable with. I mean, if you're not comfortable with it as it is and you think it needs a review, I think it needs a review.
I'll be straight up true. I believe it is I'm completely comfortable with it. It was a combination of another jurisdiction's book or handbook that they spent about $11,000 on.
Thank you.
And we just kind of tailored it for our jurisdiction and our needs and worked with the attorney along the way on some things that we didn't quite know. So really
Based on that, I'd suggest we approve it and not send another check to the lawyers.
That's the
Is that
same
a
kind of
motion,
stuff.
Dan?
I agree.
That's the
I
same
agree.
kind of stuff we did with our employee handbook too, and we didn't send it.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be sent either.
No.
then I guess we need a motion to adopt.
I'll make the motion to adopt the employee handbook, fire district's employee handbook as presented.
I'll second it. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion by Fox and a second by Phelps to approve the 2020 employee handbook. Can we have is there any more discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Fox,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes, if you can hear me.
for
I've
Plank.
been kicked off a couple times.
Yeah, I think Comcast is lagging. For Plank,
Yes.
Pullen,
Yes.
and Miller.
Miller. Aaron, you
Is that a
with?
yes, Marion?
Oh, that's a yes.
Okay, sorry. Gotcha. All right.
There he is.
Okay, moving on to item C, the adoption of the Fire District Lexipol SOP SOG manual. I guess this is the same thing, Greg. If you're comfortable with this, we should be comfortable with it. So,
Yes, Jane, in this situation, Lexipol is a service and there are 10 to 12 attorneys based on what it is that create these boilerplate SOPs and SOGs. And we take that SOP, SOG and tailor it for our jurisdiction. Some of it is by statute. It's required by state law. We don't touch those. And that's the benefit of engaging in Lexipol's service, is that you have that expertise of they know MIOSHA and they know what state statutes are. And we really like that part of it. So what we did is we just tailor it towards our response order, our resources, and our staffing ability. So that's what we did. 3.5 years.
Whoa.
Okay, so could I hear a motion to adopt the fire district Lexipol SOP SOG manual?
I'll make a motion to adopt the Fire District Lexipol SOP SOG manual.
I'll second that.
We have-
Aldrich.
I have a motion by Pullen and a second by Aldrich to approve the Lexipol SOP SOG manual. Is there any other discussion? Do we have a roll call vote, please?
Would you mind adding the date of 7/16/2020 that's on the bottom of the page to that motion, Taru?
Oh, okay, add
Just
the date
just a
of
reference.
7/16/2020.
Perfect. All right. Was that a yes, Pullen?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, Aldrich,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
and Miller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to unfinished business, public safety floating dock project update. Take it away, Greg.
Yes, I had some things I wanted to share with the board. I am so excited about the fireboat dock that the board supported. You just would not believe it, and it's had a lot of activity lately. Last week at training, we did fireboat training. We had 15 people on that dock, and it didn't move. So my thanks to the fire board, my deep, profound thanks to the fire board for allowing us to do this much needed dock, because it is so, you just got to go there because you could probably land a helicopter on it. It's fantastic.
That's nice.
So where we're at with it is, the elevation of the floating dock and the ramp didn't seem to be looked at close enough by engineering, not pointing fingers. So we had quite an incline, and the floating dock, if we went up about 8 more inches, was going to hit the top of the dock. So I reached out to DK Construction, who had secured it to the shore with steel posts driven into the shore, and then resting on top. I reached out to Steve King. Chris Mantles and I both did, because Chris was side by side with me on this project, and said, Steve, what are we going to do here? Because the elevation wasn't taken into consideration from engineering. And he said the only way to properly do this and ensure longevity is to put in a steel retaining wall. So we said, okay. We assume that's not in the price. He said, oh, no, of course not. It's not. So I said, give me the price on that, and Chris and I will reach out to Army Corps and Eagle to see if there's any amendment we need to do to the permits. Chris contacted both agencies. Their answers were there's no response required. So it costs us another $3,100 to put in a seawall. Personally, as far as beautification and our desire to make that street in look better, it looks much better. It's going to be, it's better in the long run. It was just unavoidable. So with that negative news on that, we're hoping, number one, if you say, Greg, how are you going to fund that? Number one, I'm hoping that the underwater dive inspections come in less expensive than what was quoted, the $9,000. We'll see when the bill comes in. Number two, you've got some cost recovery that's boating related that you might consider will help offset this expense. Three, you've got a FEMA grant that you just got for $4,700 that will help offset expenses. So the fifth thing I have to add is your special events are way down. We have a fund balance there that we could borrow money from. So I didn't have much of a choice because I couldn't anchor the ramp. So I most humbly apologize for being $3,100 over budget at this time, but I do not know what my final cost is on the underwater dive. We may be okay, we may not. But one of the things I want to do with that corner is kind of improve the way it looks. We've never made any investment in that corner, and we've been there almost 21 years. So that being said, I'll leave it to the board for comments.
Were
Well,
you,
it sounds like we didn't have a choice. I mean, you had to do it for safety reasons, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
were you able to go deep enough with the sheet pile that didn't affect the water line?
No, what DK said, he felt so comfortable with it. He only went about 2.5 or 3 feet down based on which side he did, Scott. So it was really 6 foot by 6 foot by 7 foot. So it was very minor as far as what was put down.
Yeah.
And there you see a photo.
Yeah.
So it's anchored, it's bolted to the top channel. And you can see the elevation was, I have to say, it was just missed. And we're not engineers.
No.
So it's just a mistake.
So
And it happens.
Just want to make sure we're going to be stable enough if they couldn't go down very far.
Right. That was what Steve King spec'd out, and that's what the crew came in with an excavator and tapped that down.
Okay, good.
So do we know when the cement pad's going to be put in, Greg?
No, ma'am, we do not have it scheduled yet by our concrete contractor. As soon as we know, we can let the board know. It could not be this week. He's too busy. So we're hoping for the following week.
And then after that, I think it would behoove us to do a beautification project down there. Any of you all can come and help, and I think we need to spruce it up, make it look good.
Plant some
Sounds good.
posies.
Yep. Little beach grass, a little Russian sage makes anything look good.
We've got some inexpensive ideas, so we are going to, you can see in the photo Chris has up there where the steel terminates towards shore. We got to kind of ramp that. So, because the concrete pad is only 4 inches thick. So we're going to kind of build a soft berm that leads to the ramp to the right of your screen. We'll make a transition so you can take a cot and flow onto the ramp as seamlessly as possible, because that center ramp, we have to return to Linus Starring. We borrowed that. So we'll work that out.
It's a good project.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Moving on to new business. We forgot to elect new board officers last
Could you
month.
give us the rundown? I know you're the chairperson, but who holds the other 3 places?
I'm the chair, Eric Beckman is the vice chair. Dan, you're the secretary, and Scott Phelps is the vice secretary.
Is everyone willing to renew? 'Cause I'll make a motion to approve the slate, the current slate, to bring the current slate forward.
I'll second that.
Scott, you want to give your usual speech, or?
I think things are working fine just the way they are. If True wants to make that, I'll back her 100%.
All right, is there anybody else? Do you want to do this all together, or?
I think that's what we've done before.
Okay.
I don't know how you've done it, but that's the way I made the motion to do it all together.
Yeah, that's the way I've done it.
Okay, I think we can, yeah.
Eric, you have any questions?
Nope.
All right, and maybe a little brief summary of why we have a vice secretary is when we were buying a fireboat, or
Truck.
when we were firing a fire truck, 2112, we needed the secretary to sign something, and the secretary was in Florida, so we had to quick get a vice secretary, so we just left it that way. So.
I don't go to Florida, but just FYI.
I do.
I'm not old enough.
Scott is. Scott is.
I'll never be old enough, but oh well. So we have a motion on the floor by Pullen, seconded by Aldrich. So could we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Poland,
Yes,
Aldrich,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
and Miller.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
And thank you, I think, for
Huh.
faith in me as a chairperson. It's good or bad.
You seem to have time to do it, Gene.
Oh, yeah, because I have all the time in the world.
You have more than most of us.
Oh, Becky. All right.
I'm not going to respond to that one.
That's fighting words.
We get to sit on their front porch all day and rock.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Dang.
Life's a dream. Nightmares. Okay, no correspondence. Is there any public comment? Griffin, you got anything you want to say?
Nope, I'm good. I was terrified there for a minute when Chris left and it made me the meeting host. So I'm glad we got through this smooth. Good thing I was in a good mood or we never know what would have happened.
Right?
oh, it could
He
have been
didn't even
fun.
notice.
I didn't notice, but yeah, thanks for standing in there, Griffin.
Yeah, right. Thanks, everyone.
There'll be
All
a
right.
bill in the mail, I'm sure.
All right, moving on to fire board comments. Dan, you're first on my list here.
No, I'm good, thank you. I would add, I've seen the work at the fire dock, or the fireboat dock. That was an exceptionally well done, really well done installation. Very professional and well looked after, and generally avoided conflict with the neighbors, and so terrific job.
Thank you.
Stacy?
I went and looked at it too, and it's just beautiful. I'm just so happy for everybody that's involved and can take good use of it and jump on it, and it's not going to move, and it's a good job.
Thank you.
Eric Beckman?
Agreed. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, who have I missed? Taru?
I have nothing to say. I couldn't go down there because I couldn't walk very well. So I didn't get to go see it, but it sounds like it was a good job for everybody else. I'm very happy to hear that.
Aaron?
Nothing
Thanks,
for
Drew.
me.
You're welcome.
Aaron Miller?
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay, I think I've had enough to say today. So if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Thank you, Miss Scott. Just
Oh, Scott.
I don't count.
Always got something to say.
I've had a lot of nice comments about the fire dock. A couple people I've talked to so wonder why we got to have it, and I explained it to them, and then they changed their minds. So
Good.
hopefully everybody will be on board with it.
Yeah.
Yes, I hope so too. Okay, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at, I don't know what time it is. I don't have a clock, whatever time it says. Oh, wait,
4:58.
4:58. Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 4:58.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Poland, seconded by Aldrich to adjourn the meeting. Can we have a roll call vote?
yes, ma'am. Poland,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Chris, I have a question. Will the next meeting be at the building or will that still be a Zoom meeting, or don't we know yet?
It's still Zoom because she renewed her order last week, and
Okay.
we're continuing to do Zoom meetings 28 days after the last order will expire. So for now, it's good for at least
Okay.
another month at this point, I believe.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I think I got everybody on the last motion, right?
Did you
Yeah.
get Miller?
Miller.
No, I say yes.
Okay.
All right.
to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Was your vacation wonderful?
It was very nice. Yeah.
Yes, I'm terribly, terribly jealous. But good for you.
Okay. Are we adjourned then?
I believe we are.
Okay, just making sure I write my notes right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks.
See you
Thank
next month.
you.